Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive deep again.
Always up for a deep dive, especially into a topic this juicy.
Right. Okay, so relationships, they can be, well, complicated. And one of the toughest things to deal with is when that trust gets like totally shattered, you know?
Oof, yeah, talk about a gut punch. Been there.
Who hasn't, right? But here's the thing. It doesn't have to be the end. We're actually digging into some really practical tips today on how to rebuild trust when it feels like things are, well, broken.
Love it, because that's where the real work is, right? Not just saying sorry, but figuring out how to actually move forward.
That's exactly what our source for today's deep dive is all about. And they kick things off with, get this, open conversations. Now, I know, sounds obvious.
Right, like, duh, talk to each other.
Exactly. But hold on, because they dig deeper. It's not just about talking, it's about understanding the root cause of why the trust was broken in the first place. Like, what really went wrong? What are your thoughts on that?
It's huge, because, like, think about it. If you just slap a bandage on a wound without cleaning it out, is it really going to heal right?
Ooh, good analogy.
Right. Same with trust. Got to get to the bottom of it. Why did that person do what they did? Not to excuse it, but to understand the WHY behind the action, you know?
Okay, that makes total sense. So instead of like just accusing each other, what are some good ways to actually have these kind of tough conversations? Like, are there any magic phrases or something?
Well, magic phrases, not so much, but I will say starting from a place of curiosity can help. Like, instead of, you did this, try something, help me understand what was going on that made you act that way.
Oh, that's subtle but powerful.
Exactly. It's about inviting that open dialogue, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not coming at them with accusations. It's more like, well, what were we saying before? Like an archaeological dig. You're carefully trying to uncover what's buried beneath the surface.
I love that. Okay, but let's be real. Having these conversations, even when you're trying to be all calm and curious, it's easy to fall into like blame game territory, right?
Yeah.
What are some traps couples should try to avoid?
Oh, so many. But one big one is interrupting, like truly listening, not just waiting for your turn to speak. That's huge EE.
Oh my gosh, yes. Guilty as charged sometimes, I have to admit.
We all do it. But when you're trying to rebuild trust, letting the other person feel heard, even if you don't agree, it can make a world of difference.
It shows you respect them, even when you're upset.
Exactly. And, oh, another thing, avoid those sweeping statements like,
Uh,
you always or you never.
yeah, those just make people want to get defensive, right?
Guaranteed. Keeps you stuck in that blame cycle.
Okay, so let's say you've had the tough conversations, you're both like committed to doing better. What's next? Because our source really hammers home this idea of consistency.
Because talk is cheap. Right.
Preach. Words are easy, it's the actions that matter.
100%. Consistency is what proves you mean what you say. It's about showing up differently, day after day, even when it's hard.
So give us some examples. What does that look like in like real life relationships?
It could be small things, like if you messed up, own it. Don't make excuses. If you said you'd be more communicative, actually do it. Check in with your partner, even when you're busy. Those little acts of follow-through, they add up big time.
It's like proving you can be relied on, right? That your word means something again.
Exactly. It's about rebuilding that foundation of trust brick by brick.
I'm liking this building metaphor. Okay, the next tip is a tough one. Empathy.
Oof, yeah. This one can feel impossible, especially in the beginning when you're hurting.
Right, because you're like, I'm the one who got hurt. So how is someone supposed to put themselves in their partner's shoes when they feel like the wronged party?
It's really about shifting your perspective, even if it's just a little bit at first. Instead of focusing on how their actions made you feel, try to understand why they might have acted that way.
Even if you disagree with their reasons.
Even then. It doesn't mean you have to condone it, but try to see the world from their side for a moment.
Oh.
Maybe they were scared, insecure, or acting out of their own pain.
So it's about validating their feelings, even if you wouldn't have felt the same way in that situation.
Exactly. It's about saying, I understand why you feel hurt, without adding a but.
Yeah.
Just acknowledging their experience can be incredibly healing.
It's powerful, right? Because it shows you're really trying to get them, even if you messed up.
And that's the foundation for rebuilding that emotional connection, which is so crucial for trust to flourish again. Now, once you've got some of that understanding and empathy going on, our source says it's time to move on to clear expectations.
Okay, so what does that even mean? Like, are we talking relationship rule books here?
Not quite a rule book, but kinda. It's more about, like, now that you've both had a chance to air things out, What are your needs going forward? What needs to change for both of you to feel safe and respected?
It's like creating a new normal for your relationship.
That's a great way to put it, because you're not trying to erase who you are, but you are acknowledging that things can't just go back to the way they were before.
Right, because that clearly wasn't working. So you're outlining, like, okay, here's what I need from you, and what can you expect from me moving forward?
Exactly. It's about honesty, clear communication, and maybe setting some boundaries too.
Boundaries are healthy.
100%.
Okay, and finally, the source stresses something that I think a lot of us struggle with: patience. Give it time.
Oh, I know, right? We all want that quick fix. But like a fine wine or a good cheese, some things just take time.
They really do. So, any advice on how to balance that need for patience with, that very human desire to like see progress and feel secure again? Because that waiting game is rough.
Really is. I think it helps to focus on the small wins. Like, did you have a really good, honest conversation? Celebrate that. Did you catch yourself about to fall back into old habits but manage to course correct? That's huge. Give yourselves credit for every step forward, no matter how small.
It's a marathon, not a sprint, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so let's do a quick recap of these trust rebuilding tips for everyone listening.
Let's do it.
We talked about those open conversations, remembering to dig deep and really understand the root cause of the issue, and then backing those words with consistent actions, proving you're going to show up differently.
And don't forget about empathy. Putting in the effort to see things from your partner's perspective, even when it's tough.
So important. Then setting clear expectations for the future, like here's how we can both feel safe and respected moving forward. And finally, that big one, giving it time. Healing takes time. Trust takes time.
It does. But it's so worth it when it happens.
Now, here's something to think about. Our source was focused on romantic relationships, but honestly, aren't these principles applicable everywhere? Think about friendships, family relationships, even at work.
Oh, totally. Trust is the foundation of any strong relationship, right?
Exactly. So whether it's with a partner, a friend, or even your colleagues, remember that trust can be rebuilt. It might take some work, some patience, and a whole lot of open communication, but it's possible.
And that's a pretty hopeful thought, don't you think?
It really is. Until next time, everyone, happy rebuilding those relationships.